Welcome to Just Wanna Quilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School, where we explore all kinds of things, stories about quilting, tools, field trips, maybe some famous quilters stop by, and, of course, a little bit of copyright thrown in just for fun. This is Elizabeth Townsend-Gard, your host, and I'm a law professor at Tulane University Law School and a faculty fellow at the A.B. Friedman School of Business at Tulane. And I just want to quilt. Today we interviewed Glenda McCarthy, who goes by Tess. She is our first winner of an interview. We sponsored an interview. We're sponsoring the hand-pieced quilt along with that Kristen Esser and Elm Street Quilts is doing, and they put up an interview as a prize, and Tess won the interview. But I don't know that until like way into the interview, so you'll see. We'll try it again. Okay, so tell me your name and where you're calling from.
Hi, I'm Glenda McCarthy, and I'm from Wellsboro, Pennsylvania.
Awesome. And you go by Tess. Tell us about that part.
Oh, that was a nickname given to me by my first husband. But it's much more my personality than Glenda.
Interesting. Okay, so what's your first memory of someone sewing or quilting in your life?
I don't remember quilting at all, but sewing when I was a child, probably my grandmother more than my mother, but both of them a little bit.
Yeah? And how did you come to sew, and how did you come to quilt?
I think I started sewing when I was in Girl Scouts, probably at age 8 or 9 a little bit, and then home ec sewing in middle school. And I actually have a degree in home economics.
You do?
So sewing was a piece of that.
Yeah.
And I started quilting in the 70s. It was during the bicentennial, and a lot of the original arts and crafts were coming back into focus.
Yeah.
And quilting was something I was really interested in and started then.
Interesting. And so how would you describe your quilting life now?
I'm an avid quilter.
Yeah.
It might actually be an addiction.
Yeah.
And a little bit of everything, probably more traditional than artsy. But I enjoy all of it. A little bit of hand quilting, hand piecing, lots of machine piecing, machine quilting, and I'm relatively new to long arm.
Oh, yeah? Me too. Okay, so let's talk about... So if you're an avid quilter bordering on obsessed, what did you say? Addiction?
Addiction.
Right. What does that look like?
I have a sewing room upstairs in my house that is pretty much jam-packed with fabrics.
Okay.
They're sorted, sort of, by color.
Yeah.
And I have a large collection of books.
Uh-huh.
I follow a lot of blogs.
Yeah.
I shop a lot for fabrics.
Yeah.
I don't buy a lot, but I shop a lot.
Yeah.
But I probably buy more than the average home sewer would.
Okay, so I put myself in that category. So far, if it's a checklist of are you avid, almost addicted, I think I fit your. I'm checking the boxes. So what else? How often do you sew?
I would like to sew every single day.
Yeah.
I don't, but I sew several times weekly.
What do you think? Why is this hobby? Why does it do this to us? Like, I feel like I guess like when I was cross-stitching, I would like want to cross-stitch for hours upon hours. Like maybe that's just my personality. But there's something different about this hobby, I think, that makes us into these sort of, we want to do more all of the time.
I love the colors. I love the texture of the fabric.
Yeah.
I like the planning of patterns and designs. I don't make my own designs, but I really like putting it together like a puzzle with my fabrics.
Right. I agree. I totally agree. What's your least favorite part of the quilting thing?
I don't have a real least favorite. I guess maybe binding, but I actually don't mind that so much.
Yeah. I think
if I have the time to do it, if I'm in a rush ice, then I don't like binding because that takes a long time.
And so why do you quilt? Like, are you quilting for family, charity, selling? Like, what's your purpose in quilting?
So it's a little bit of everything. I've made a lot of quilts for family, lots of gifts, 50th anniversary for my parents and my in-laws, wedding quilts for my daughters that are married, graduation quilts for my children from high school, college, med school, baby quilts for, I only have one grandchild, but baby quilt for my grandchild, and then a I Spy quilt for her. We have a camper and travel a lot, and I have quilts in my camper. I'm part of a guild. Our guild is over 20 years old, and I'm one of the charter members, and I quilt there for charity. And currently I'm sharing a raffle quilt project for my guild, organizing that. So I guess I sew for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, me too. And how many projects do you think you have going at one time? Is it even possible to count? Are you like
I'm not sure I can tell you exactly. Yeah. Like, I'm sitting in my living room right now, and I can see my long arm with something that needs to be quilted. Yeah. The hand piecing is beside me here.
Yeah.
Several other projects in the sewing room.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. And I feel like I just reorganized the sewing room, and I put the projects I'm working on the wall because I kept forgetting what projects I had. And I don't know, I do like going from project to project. Some people are all about like one project, get it done, but I don't know. It seems like it's nice to have different projects to be working on.
Yeah, I'm not at all about one project and not even one craft. I mean, I have a sweater I'm knitting here as well as the sewing that I do, the quilting that I do.
Yeah, interesting. Tell me about the long arm.
I bought my long arm 3 years ago. It's an Avante 18. I don't know if I'm supposed to tell you the name of that, but it's an Avante 18, and I really like it. I'm not a confident long arm quilter yet. Yeah. I bought it, and promptly life got in the way for a while, and I'm back at it now, and I'm most confident with pantograph quilting, but I'm working toward more free motion.
Tell me more about how you use pantographs.
On a busy quilt, a pantograph seems to be a good way to go, so that it's quilted, but it's an Oliver design, so you're not highlighting any particular area, but it's quilted and comfortable to use. Yeah. I used a pantograph last summer it was a Kim Deal design that was very busy and very colorful, and I was really happy with how the pantograph came out for that.
Interesting. And where are you getting your pantographs from?
I've ordered them online from a couple of different places. I couldn't tell you the name right now off the top of my head.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I don't have a computerized machine. I don't have the Pro Stitcher or whatever, so I'm using paper pantographs.
Paper pantographs, and you put them on the back, and you've got a
actual
laser.
Paper, not the digital ones. I have the paper.
You have the paper ones. Interesting. And do you use them over and over again for other projects once you order the pantograph?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As long as I only have maybe a half a dozen pantographs.
Yeah.
And at this point, I add one, but rarely, because I really have ones that I really like, and I use them over and over again.
That's interesting. Did you feel like there was any kind of learning curve with them, or did they seem like pretty easy from the beginning?
Not a curve, but once you got the motion, it seemed like it went fairly well.
That's
now
great.
I'm not expert at it, and sometimes retracing lines, you don't retrace exactly.
Yeah.
But if you were doing it free motion, you might not retrace your lines either. So I'm not uncomfortable with it.
Yeah, interesting. So let's talk a little bit about the other side of the world, which is my part of it, which is intellectual property. So you said that you don't create your own patterns, you use other people's patterns. Tell me examples of how do you, tell me about your process of sort of creating a quilt.
Okay, so I've done a lot from books. I purchase books, so I have I've done quilts from Kim Deal's books, from Joe Morton's books. I took a class with Bonnie Hunter, and since I took the class, the pattern was a download for the class, so I have that pattern that I used. A lot from magazines, which are pretty much up for grabs if they're published in the magazine. And I don't always use them verbatim. I sometimes change and put a different border on, or different cornerstones or different corners.
Yeah, interesting. And when you're done, like, when you're quilting for your guild, is it different in your mind, or is it the same? Like when you're doing charity quilts or the raffle quilt, is it different or the same than when you're quilting for your family? In terms of choosing a pattern or feeling like, do you just feel like a pattern is a pattern and you use it in any way you want, or do you feel like a different feeling if you're using it for something with the guild?
I think it's a little different for the guild, and I tend to try to use something that's coming offline or from a magazine that I know is freely available. So, and I'm not generally purchasing a pattern with somebody's copyright on it that I'm going to use for that. Yeah.
Do you guys tend to go more traditional on the things you're doing for the guild, or sort of like, what I'm trying to get at is sort of you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes quilts there's not much protectable about them anyway, because they're just traditional blocks in a traditional way, you know?
Right. Yeah. Through the guild, some of the things are relatively traditional, a lot of scrappy stuff, because we tend to have in some of our charity things that are given to children's homes, nursing homes, cancer centers, or whatever, we tend to do scrappy things because we have a lot of fabric donated for something like that.
Yeah. Interesting.
So it's a pattern, it's something that's come offline, or a lot of things from Jenny Doan has a lot of things that are fun to take and do in a lap size quilt that's going to go there.
Yeah, and her patterns go fast, right? They're made to go. Yeah. That's interesting.
No, our current raffle project is a scrappy quilt this time. One of the reasons we decided to do that was cost of fabric, and we use our raffle as a fundraiser to keep our guild going, to get national quilters here and speakers.
Yeah.
So we're doing a really scrappy quilt that's just coming out beautifully.
Oh, that's really cool.
And the pattern came totally as a tutorial online.
Interesting. And then how much on the raffle? Like, if you do a raffle quilt, because I've never done one before, how much, who's buying the raffle tickets? And how much do you think you'll raise with the raffle quilt?
Okay, we have a show every other year in September, and our raffle quilt is usually done 9 months before that show, and it is shown at various places, and tickets are sold.
Nice.
Prior to the show and then during the show. And we're a small town, but the art center in our town, we are their biggest. The quilt show is their biggest show every single year that there's a quilt show.
I like that. That's we do that a lot of places, don't we, as quilters?
Yeah, it's really neat. And I believe that the last show was in September of this past year, and I believe they sold around $4,000 in tickets. Wow.
That's a lot. How much are the tickets usually?
They're $1 a piece, or $6 or $5.
That's a lot of participation, don't you think?
Yep. We get a lot out. We really do get a lot out.
And do you sell the raffle tickets throughout when it's on its tour? Are you selling the raffle tickets then as well?
Yep, during that, like, roughly 9 months prior to the show, when it's out and about at various places, we're selling tickets.
You are.
Last year, they took it to the Quilters Odyssey in Hershey and had it on display there and sold some tickets there.
Oh, that's so cool. I like that. That's really interesting. And what role do you think guilds are playing in our world? Sometimes we hear that they're really, really core, which I think they are. Some are worried about them, as a founding member, that they're worried that they're going to, they're not getting infused with younger members. So what are your thoughts about guilds at this point?
I really love our guild, and I think they're pretty strong in promoting the art and craft of quilting. And I think, depending on how much outreach you do, you can get younger people and newer people. Our guild has been around for over 20 years last September, and we are constantly getting new members. Not necessarily young members, but new members.
Yeah.
But we do have some young. We had a young sewing group for a while, and added maybe 6 or 8 people in a year. They don't all stay with it because they head off to college later or move on somewhere. But we got them started.
Yeah, and that's huge. That's totally huge. That's like making people, just giving them the opportunity helps a lot. It's really interesting. What do you think makes a guild successful? Because your guild's been down, and how has it changed over the last 20 years?
I think it's not expensive to be a member.
Yeah.
We try to be really inclusive. We try to accept anybody's art form. So we have a lot of traditional. We have a fair amount of people that are truly art quilters. We have hand quilters, machine quilters, applique. There are some small groups within our guild. And I think accepting everybody and promoting quilting to everyone and being inclusive in our show. Our shows aren't juried or anything like that. Everyone in the guild, no matter their expertise, has the opportunity to show at least one quilt.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really nice. I like that. And the importance, do you go to national shows, or do you think the local, what's the relationship between national and local shows in terms of understanding this?
I think there's a big relationship, and I think we learn when we go. I've never been to Paducah. I've never been to Houston.
Yeah.
I go to Lancaster, which is an AQS show.
Yeah, right.
Almost every year I go to Lancaster, and almost every year, now that I'm retired, I go to Quilt Odyssey in Hershey.
Oh.
I've been to the Vermont Quilt Show, and I've been to Mancuso shows.
Wow.
So cool. I think when you get out and go to shows, you learn more and more about newer techniques. You learn about history. I love the historical parts of shows. And it just brings it all home, and you come back and it meshes with what you're going to try next. Whether you're going to, we went several years ago and there were all kinds of Dear Jane quilts, and I haven't done one, but a whole group of our guild, I was still working at the time, a whole group of our guild did Dear Jane quilts after seeing the Dear Jane display.
Yeah, it inspires you to do new things, or old things in that case. Interesting. Oh, yeah,
absolutely.
I like that. Yeah, interesting. So the other thing that I get, so this is weird. So I get people telling me, pattern makers telling me, that they think the guilds are being improper in terms of using their patterns in certain ways. But when I talk to the guilds, I don't hear that from them, right? I see either they're asking permission, or they're using things that they feel are in the public domain, or they're doing it for charity and they're using a whole bunch of different patterns, or I don't know. So what are your thoughts about this divide between what the pattern makers think is happening and sort of the demonizing of guilds as the reason that that people are stealing patterns? Do you get that ever? Do you ever hear that?
I do. I do hear that a little bit, and I and I can only speak for our guild.
Yeah.
I think we're pretty careful. You know, if we're running a workshop, we make sure that everybody buys the pattern, or we get permission to copy the pattern.
Yeah.
If we're doing it for charity, you know, everybody's probably copied a pattern or two. I'm guilty of that.
Yeah.
But I think that by and large, we respect the fact that people have worked hard to produce these patterns.
I agree.
And we're willing to paint them.
Yeah, I agree. I
you know,
feel like
I'm sure, you know, there are bits and pieces. You know, I've copied a couple patterns. Mostly I copy them out of magazines, though, not somebody else's pattern. I buy the magazine and share something with a friend.
Yeah. It's interesting. And, you know, the other thing is that there are instances where you can make copies of things, and you can also give that magazine to a friend if you're not using it or whatever. Like, that's for sale doctrine.
Right.
And you can go to the library and make copies of things. So there's all these different spaces in our world where you're allowed to do certain things. But it also seems like the quilt world, like, we buy a lot of, as you said, you talked about your studio, right? We are all buying a lot of stuff. We have a lot of stuff. So to buy a pattern for $8, it's not like, I don't know. I mean, we're careful on how we buy, I think, right? That you said you had half a dozen pantographs, but we still buy them, right? I don't know. I think that we are, for the most part, it seems like from this study that we are respectful consumers. I guess it's like we're used to buying things.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. And when you go to a show, you're shopping the vendors and you pick and choose, but you usually go home with something that you've purchased that's new or different or not available where you are. I mean, I live in a rural area, and our local fabric shop is no longer, so I'm at least an hour away from a fabric store.
That's craziness. That is tragic. Does that mean that you shop more online?
Tragic. I do shop a fair amount online. I have some favorite sites that I keep my eye on and pay attention to sales and certain lines of fabric. I have designers that I really like. I like Kim Deal. I like Betsy Tutchin. I like Pam Buddha, Joe Morton.
Yeah.
Lynn Hagmeyer. I could name them off.
Yeah.
And I kind of hawk their lines and sales of their lines or certain things that I might want.
Do you think that's so? I mean, I swear, like, I check that box too. I think that it's interesting as you quilt more and you become more aware of things, right? Obviously, there's solids and things like that, but I do start to gravitate to the same designers over and over again. I'm interested in how many of us are doing that and how important it is. How important are those designers to the quilting world? Because that wasn't always the case. It's kind of a fairly newish phenomenon, right? So I'm curious,
I think it's pretty important, and I think there are a lot of quilters that I know that shop particular designers, particular lines, their books, their patterns, their fabrics, and a combination of those.
Yeah, I think so too.
I'm pretty traditional, and my color palette is probably pretty traditional.
Yeah.
So the Kansas Troubles, the Primitive Gatherings, and Kim Deal is a little bit brighter than that, but her prints are tiny, and her designs lend themselves to country living.
Yeah.
So I gravitate toward those.
Interesting. It's very interesting, isn't it? And how much is your life, your quilting life, about social media, being on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest? Like, how much of that is important to you?
I'm on Facebook every day, not all day, obviously, but I do check in periodically, and I follow several groups and have followed some that I've dropped just because I don't want to spend so much time on Facebook.
Yeah.
I don't do Instagram, and I do Pinterest some, but it's not a big deal for me.
Yeah.
I follow a fair amount of blogs, but I get the messages through email and then check them out if I'm interested.
Yeah.
And I get a fair amount of advertising from some fabric places that I've purchased from online.
Yeah.
So
that's enough.
I probably get a lot of information through the computer.
Yeah.
On fabrics, designs, patterns. Yeah.
Interesting.
And I like to enter giveaways too. So
you do.
That's always a fun thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I do.
Tell me why. That's interesting.
Well, that's how I got this little interview. It was through the hand quilt along.
Oh, that's why we're supposed to be talking. Oh, see, we need to talk about that. That's okay. Right. You won this interview in the giveaway. That's so funny. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that.
If we had at least 4 blocks done.
Yes.
If we had at least 4 blocks done, I got to send the picture in, and for whatever reason, I won that.
You did. You won it, and now you're here.
At the time, and I took a picture, and I won.
That is so cool. Okay, so I'm doing the hand piecing quilt along that Kristen Esser and Elm Street Quilts is doing. How is it going for you? Let's ask you that question first. Have you kept up?
Okay, it's going pretty well. I am behind at this point. Me too. So block number 9 came out last Monday. Yes. I have 5 blocks completed.
Oh, I'm about there too.
Almost finished.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I'm doing that.
I have 7. Yeah, 7 is cut out and marked. 8 is cut out, and I haven't cut 9 yet. So,
awesome.
I'm keeping up to a certain level.
Yeah, I think I have 3 or 4 more blocks to go, and I'm hoping just to put on a good movie and get it done. I think they're almost cut out. How have you liked the hand piecing quilt sew along?
Oh, I'm really enjoying it, and it's been a nice winter project for us. We live in the country in a rural area, and I sit in front of our wood stove and hand stitch at night.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. That's very that's really, really cool. Now,
back to the old tradition of quilting.
Totally.
Sitting in front of the fire, hand stitching. Yeah.
Now, what will you do? First of all, there's 2 ways to do it. You can do it straight across. You can do it on point. Do you know which way you're going to put it all together?
I'm going to put it together straight across.
Straight across. And do you know, it's not that big, right? It's pretty small. Because it's
not that big, yeah.
It's 6-inch blocks, 9 of them, so that's not very big.
Right.
Do you know what you're going to do with it once you're
with
done?
With borders and sashing. I'm going to do a wall hanging, and just by chance I ended up with reds and greens and cream, so it'll probably be a Christmassy holiday
that's nice.
Hanging.
I like that. That's nice. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I haven't quite figured out. Mine are all grays, and it's kind of muted, so I've got to figure out what I'm doing to make it a little more pizzazzy. But I think I'm going to try on point just because I haven't done that much. So I figured that will be something different. But I don't know. That's I think tomorrow's project. But I'm a little bit sad it's ending because I've really enjoyed the community that's been created by this 9-week thing. Do you feel like that too?
Yeah, me too. I was hoping that they were going to go into hand quilting it after the hand piecing.
I know.
That would have been a real nice extension to the project.
I know. Have they said no to that?
I don't think they said no, but I don't believe they've said yes either.
Right. We have to we'll have to be like a mob mentality and make them do it.
I haven't heard, other than that, we have the month of April to get the talk together.
Yes, that's what I've heard too. So we're all under pressure to get it done in a good way. It's funny though. There's something interesting about these communities that they do feel like communities. It's surprising to me.
Absolutely. I really appreciate the chatter back and forth on the computer.
Yeah, I do too.
With people that I haven't met.
Yeah.
I participate in some other online groups that are like that as well.
Yeah.
So it's really fun to do that.
That's very cool. You'll have to join the Just Wanna Quilt Quilting Army. And it's just our Facebook page where we call ourselves the Quilting Army because we have all kinds of things going on. And it's a nice group. We talk about a lot of different things. But then we've also got a splinter group now, which is So what happened was we had a bunch of people, lots of people are very active, but then I noticed that we were having a smaller group that wasn't really participating. So we made a smaller group, which is Just Wanna Quilt, the Stealth Sewing Squadron. And they're mostly people that didn't post very much, but now they're posting in this smaller group, and they're kind of my go-to group to help me get stuff done because we're trying to experiment with all kinds of things, and I was getting behind. So, but you should come join us and chat. It would be really fun. Do you join the?
I just joined your Facebook group yesterday.
You did? So. Oh, that's so great. Well, I haven't. Yes. That's great. Well, look at this. Well, I'll have to post this soon so we can be like, hey, not only is she here, but you can listen. It's really cool. Well, I'm so great. This is so funny that you won it as a giveaway. You're our first thing. So did you like the idea? Because we're going to try to, that's the only thing we have to offer if we want to help sponsor things is to, have a interview. Did you like that as a gift? Was that weird? Was it a weird thing to get?
Oh, no. I thought it was really interesting to be able to do it. And it made me think about my quilting to be able to answer questions that you might ask in an interview.
Totally. Right. I love it.
So for me, it was fun.
I love it. That is so great. Well, this is really cool. I just had such a nice time chatting with you. I think we totally should make a checklist of what makes you an avid / addicted quilter, because I think you did really pin it down today. But I love the variety that you're doing, and will you send me a few pictures of things that you've done so that you'll have a page on our website that will have this interview and a little bit about you. So could you send me just a little bio and a few pictures of things that you've made, or even the in progress?
I will send you a little bio and a few shots of some quilts I made.
I think it's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming. And do you need to review this before we post it, or are you cool with me posting it?
I'm cool with you posting it.
You are awesome. This is great.
I'm
all right,
pretty laid back.
You are. Well, thanks again. I really appreciate it. We'll get it all up and running, and we'll post it probably pretty soon so that it can be part of the hand piecing sew-along. You won this. This is so cool. Perfect. You're our first winner of an interview. I'm so excited.
Well, that was really fun. Great. Fun for me. Fun for you.
Yes, totally. Awesome. It's been so nice chatting with you. I hope you have a good day.
Nice chatting with you. Thank you so much.
All right. Now. Take care. Bye-bye. So you've been listening to Just Wanna Quilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School. And I'm Elizabeth Townsend Gard. If you like this podcast, keep listening. Also, we have a Facebook group. Come join us. We talk about a lot of things. We also have an Instagram account. And of course, most importantly, I really hope you get a chance to quilt today.